Hey, hello again. Well, I took the ferry out to Friday Harbor to escape the heat wave down near Tacoma and found this beautiful little county park, just a small park in a shaded spot facing kind of north. I'm going to make something of this little cove here. Not sure how much of it I'm going to capture. I love the shadows that are developing on that rock wall over there. Love the old trees, pines, and madrones, and the reflection in the water. Should be a nice place to spend the afternoon, so I'm going to set up and do an oil painting. As always, thanks so much for joining me. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. The ferries to the San Juan Islands are really pleasant, especially in the summer, in these calm days when it's hot inland and cool out on the water. Pretty easy to use. They've been very crowded lately with some cancellations due to staffing shortage. But the online reservation system works really well. It's really easy. You can go upstairs and find an open chair with a big window, or stand out on the deck, feel the wind, and get a great view all around. On some ferries you can stay in your car and just enjoy the view, especially if you're on the open side lane.
She didn't want to adore those things again, but nothing yet had taken their place. Noah said, "The one with the hat?" "Yeah, I saw the message. The rhymer."
Going with a 9x12" well primed linen panel. I could go a little larger since it's really close to the parking lot, and it should be a really beautiful, calm afternoon, but you never know. I also want to try this panel. This is a panel I made myself by using acid-free glue and gluing some Clausen's number 13 linen, which had been oil primed by the manufacturer. I glued that to one of those birch panels that I get from Blix. I sized the panel first, all sides, with acid-free PVA, and then glued that linen down. So I want to play with that on a little smaller scale. I couldn't quite come up with a good composition just on my phone and just by looking at the scene, so I sat down and did several sketches. And here's the one I like. It's a portrait orientation, and it allows me to capture what I'm really drawn to in the scene. The reflection in the water of the sky and of the hill, the beautiful shadows and different colors of the rocks and the scrubby high-value grass, that distant purple and pink mountain. I'm going to cut out some of those mid-ground mountains. I think I'll make up a tree on this bluff here to act as kind of a center of interest. Maybe relocate this pine, at least the shape of this pine, all twisty and bent by the wind. I'll relocate that, make it a little bit bigger, put it standing a little bit alone out on this bluff. There is a little bit of a breeze here, but it's a little too hot and a little too calm for turpentine, so I'm going to use Gamsol for the initial sketch and the initial wash. I'm going to avoid the turpentine today. I really love the effects of turpentine. I love how it dries so quickly and leaves interesting textures on the panel, on the canvas, but I don't like the way it makes me feel when it's too hot or too calm, so I'm just going to skip it and go for Gamsol. I'll look at my sketch to just transfer the big shapes. Use a small bristle brush, a little bit of alizarin crimson to sketch the big shapes. I'm using alizarin because that's a color you can paint into the background and it doesn't warm things up too much. as I come forward, I may switch to a little bit of burnt umber, burnt sienna, cad yellow, just to mimic the colors I see shining through in the scene. Same thing with the Gamsol wash. I'll use those colors that I'm kind of seeing shining through the scene that I wouldn't mind poking through, left uncovered, below the top coats of painting. I'm going to place the base of the rock where it meets the water, right on this one, lower 1/3 line, angling slightly down as it comes this way. Here's the dead madrone. I can put a living madrone over here as well. There's a few of those back in there. And I can add just a little bit of red to help me remember this is one of the living ones. And I mix just a touch of ultramarine in with my alizarin for these distant background hills, which I'm going to have come up and meet this upper 1/3 line. I don't want to get them too tall, but I want them a little taller than what I'm actually seeing here in person. This distant horizon, I don't want it to be tangent to the top of this rock, so I'll place it just below that. And I don't want it directly in the middle of the panel either. Looks like that is pretty close to being directly in the middle. So I'm going to creep it up a little bit to avoid being right in the middle with the bottom of this background hill. And what I'll do is I'll likewise creep this up a little bit so that it avoids that tangent. Now I'm going to put a squiggly pine in there as well. Just kind of look over the back of my shoulder and get an idea on what kind of shape I want it to have, something graphic. There are a couple of those over there, but they're just so thickly grown together that none of them are standing out like I'd like. So I'll just invent it. I kind of like when these pines are they look like they're off center. So I'm going to curve it up a little bit and have fewer and closer branches on the land side and longer branches. I don't want them to all be at the same angle on the ocean side. And then thinking about no tan, I want to make sure I connect the darks. So I'll come in the bottom of the base of the rock wall here will be dark. There'll be some nice pockets of shadow here and there. I don't want an outline, but I want there to be a track of shadow to follow. I'm seeing some nice blues in those shadows too, so I'm going to throw some ultramarine in there as well. I'm going to move this beautiful warm shadow closer. So where the rock is reflecting the ocean water, it's got a beautiful warmth. And where it's reflecting the sky, it's nice and cool. So that'll be interesting. And to keep that in mind, I can have some warm shadow here and some cool shadow here. Connecting up into the trees. I'm gonna put some burnt umber into the trees. along with the ultramarine. I'll go with a mix of burnt sienna and alizarin crimson. I want to simplify the wave pattern I'm seeing. So in the distance there's some rough water and then some calm water beyond that. This is rough water and it's horizontal. Then there's a patch of calm water again here. And now as the water curves into this bay, the waves are tipping. So I want to make sure I capture that. I want the distant waves here. Let's see, first I want to capture roughly the shape of the reflection, and then I want the waves further back to be smaller and more horizontal. And then as they get closer, they dip a little bit and they're bigger. That'll give that feeling of perspective. But I don't want this to be so regular. I want to make sure that it's not such a regular pattern. Okay, I think that's good for the sketch. I'll go for the Gamsol wash now. I'll use this old beaten up bristle brush. I'm going to wash in a little bit of that alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue mix, really diluted. I'll use that same mix for this background hill. And introduce just a little bit of yellow ochre at the horizon. Add just a touch of dull warmth into the sky and into that background hill. I'll use that same ultramarine and alizarin for the water where it's just reflecting the sky. A little darker as it comes closer to me. Now for the trees. I think I'll do burnt sienna. A little bit of umber, burnt umber. I'll go ahead and use that at the base of this wall. And for the water reflecting the rock wall and the trees, I'll use that same mix with a little bit of ochre as well. And for the grassy parts of that hill, use just ochre. So the sketch I'm putting in there is still visible to me. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but I can still see the sketch as I'm doing this. And that's helping me to keep my composition, the composition I liked. I'm really liking the way the paint, the diluted Gamsol wash is moving on this Clausen's linen. I got a big roll of it pretty inexpensively from Jerry's a while back, and I'm just slowly using it at making panels. Take a little more Gamsol and wipe away some of this yellow from the sky. carve back out that pine. Alright, there's the wash and a little bit of added dark to try to establish that no-tan, interesting no-tan pattern. Now I'll start to mix up the true colors of the scene. I'm going to move back a little bit as well to get back into some shade. Once the colors are mixed up, we've got the light blue. This is cerulean, and just a touch of yellow ochre and ultramarine. For the bottom of the sky, for the top of the sky, it's cerulean, ultramarine, touch of alizarin, and white. Of course, this has white. Then I've got some colors for that distant mountain, the yellower middle of the mountain. Looks like grassy cliff areas, and then the trees are this lavender. These may be a little dark. I may have to dip into some of the other colors I have here to shift them. Once I have them up on the panel, I'll take a look. Got some of the lighter colors of the foreground cliff face, and then a shadow for the cliff. It's a little browner, a little greener. This will also work as shadow for the trees. This is also a shadow color for the trees. These are really warm browns where the rock is meeting the water. This is the majority of the pine trees, the lights. I was kind of chasing it, so I mixed up quite a bit. That's okay, I'll save it and use it in other paintings. And then this is the bright grassy portion of the cliff. And then I'll just use these same colors, including the sky colors, for the water. I'll start with an evergreen flat, a large. It's a rosemary number 7, and map in the sky. I'll try to do that pretty thin and quickly. Paint over the edges of where I think the trees will go so I can blend into that a little bit. Had a fleet of kayakers come in big kayaks. If you'd like to see an extended version of this video, almost real time, check out my Patreon page. Link is in the description below.
Dry goods, dry bag. It's not going to be in the front hatchery. I mean, they don't feel like the food bags did. These are closed. I don't know what these are. That's where the sunscreen more clothes.
Apple and, well no, it's fine, you can use all the stuff you think. Yeah, apple and
As I paint the rock and scrubby grass and brush, I'm trying to paint shapes and colors. I'm not thinking about the shapes as individual objects, just shapes, almost like puzzle pieces. I'm also trying not to blend shape into shape too much. I want the shapes to meet but to stay distinct. I'm finding this Clausen's linen to be pretty rough texture. It's taking a lot of paint to cover. Here's the rock mapped in roughly, just trying to go with big shapes. The gray of the rock, the light brown of the grass, the shadows. Next I'll take a rosemary master's choice. It's a badger hair brush, natural hair brush, and very loosely map in the foliage of the trees. I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush, number 2, just to get the edge, to give the edge of the tree some laciness. Dip into a little bit of brown here and there, tilt it warmer. I'm not really copying what I'm seeing out there exactly, I'm just using it for inspiration, capturing pieces here and there that I like, shapes that I like, colors that I like. This is the sun on the pines. I can come back in and cut in some shadows later. Now for this pine out on the bluff, I'm going to glance back over my shoulder and take a look at it, at the shape of that pine behind me, and borrow that. I had it up a lot taller, but I didn't quite like that, so I'm gonna drop it down a little bit lower. Now just a little bit of the lacy shadow for the edges. Okay, now I'll go with a little bigger version of that brush and paint the majority of that pine foliage. I don't want to cover up all the sky holes. And I don't want it to be all the same brush stroke. So a light touch in different directions seems to help. With that same brush, I'll map in some shadows. Gives it a nice natural looking transition. Now I'll use those same colors in a big brush, the same brush I used for the sky, same size brush I used for the sky, and map in the reflection in the water. when you're painting these sky reflections in the water, you just have to put a stroke down and then clean your brush after moving into the different color. Otherwise you're just going to track mud back into your clean color sky reflection. Palette knife and just scraped away a little bit of paint to give me a channel to paint into. Take this small round and just try to sketch in a few dabs of color for the tree, except a little bit of yellow and red, cad red, and Gamblin' Radiant Lemon for the red bark of the madrones. Add a little bit of turpentine, or a little bit of add a little bit of Gamsol to get it to flow easily. Wipe the brush clean very often, painting wet into wet like this. Here's where it ended up. Hopefully you can see that it's pretty strong with backlit. Well, that was a lot of fun. It was fun painting on this new surface. Worked out pretty well. It's a little more texture than I'm used to, so it took a little more paint to cover certain areas. We'll take a look at it under some better light, clean it up a little bit, and put it out on the website. As always, thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you in the next one. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit my website. I sell these little plein air pieces at a reasonable price because I consider them practice. It really makes me happy when someone likes my art enough that they want to hang it in their home. You can also sign up for my newsletter and stay up to date on my new work and shows and get a discount on original art and prints.